Good evening, everyone. It's Necro Thursday. That means it's time for another episode of Necromaniacs Horror Podcast. How's it going, Jeff?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah. How you feeling, man? Like, you're getting over, having coronavirus, COVID-19. So how you feeling? You okay?
Feeling good, man. Feeling good. Well, goodish. 85%. I was just telling you off there. Sometimes I feel like I'm back 100%, and then like just a wave of like lethargy, tired, just will come over me, and sometimes I can't tell if it's this Texas heat or if it's the COVID, but I'm getting there. Still a little coffee and stuff too. I had this weird lingering cough, and same with my partner, Taryn, who I live with. She didn't get it. It seemed to get a little worse than me, but like has lingered a little bit longer. So it's crazy to talk to people who've had it, and everyone will tell you a different story.
Yeah, that's it's like really inconsistent, man. And like I was telling you off air, like it took me a few weeks, about a month, before I was actually back to normal, where I was able to do everything without getting tired and that kind of thing.
Right, exactly. And for a complete hoax, it's pretty crazy to go through these symptoms. I mean,
yeah, they're doing a really good of faking everyone out on this thing,
Yeah, man. This 5G thing. That's what it is.
Yeah, they
them
are doing a good job of faking everybody.
Yeah, they sure are, man. But how are you doing, man? You checked out anything cool since we last talked?
As a matter of fact, I have. I saw some really good stuff over the last week. I saw Barbarian in the theater.
Yes, you mentioned that.
Yeah, man. And I didn't know much about the movie because, like, I guess everyone's, all the intel that's floating around is don't watch anything, don't read anything, just go and see the movie. And that's pretty much what I did. And it's, I got to say, it's probably one of my top 5, excuse me, top 5, or maybe even number 1 this year of films.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I think so far I have my number 1 chosen, but it's only September, so, and I haven't seen Barbarian, so it could be dethroned.
Yeah, it's really good. It reminds me of a Brian Keene plot, one of his novels.
Right.
It's got really great acting. It's shot really well, and I actually might go see it again in the theater, and just because P Spice, my friend over there, she wants to go see it in the theater, and we're probably going to go this weekend. Actually,
Awesome. It's been quite a while since I've seen something twice, and it's been quite a while since I've seen something in the theater. Now that I think about it,
I've been ripping movies in the theater pretty regularly.
Yeah, I should go. I mean, we got the Draft House here, and we got some great theaters, and that seems like a good theater experience from what I've been told and the few things I've read. I'm trying to take everyone's advice and not read too much about it. All I know, my friend up in Boise saw it and said it's weird that this Winona Ryder movie came out about a month ago that was very similar in plot.
Really?
And I can't remember the name of the movie. I should have wrote it down, but he's like, yeah, but that was garbage.
Oh, Winona Ryder, like she had a theatrical film come out recently.
I think it was theatrical. I mean, within the last 6-7 months. It's a 2022 movie, I believe. And he said that it's weird, but the plots were very, very similar.
Wow. I didn't even hear about that.
Yeah, apparently it's not good.
I saw 2 other things that you recommended, actually. I saw the Ben Wheatley films, Down Terrace and High Rise.
Oh, did I actually recommend High Rise?
Well, you told me about him, and I know that it was a J.G. Ballard film adaptation of one of his novels. And the novel, I enjoyed the Ballard novel, so I figured it'd be cool to see the film.
Yeah, and but, Ballard's not for everyone. He's a complex writer, to say the least. Um, what did you think of the adaptation? Then I'm curious what you thought of that one.
It was good. I enjoyed it just as as a film. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
Like they're two different things, the book and the movie. And I like Tom Hiddleston, and I always enjoy him in movies. And it was actually a very different Wheatley film than his other stuff that I've seen.
yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
It's like
Um,
real slick, and that's not what I think of Ben Wheatley when I think of movies.
yeah, Ben Wheatley, he's a tough one to nail down. I don't know if you saw his Netflix movie, Rebecca.
No.
Um, it's not good. It
Oh.
doesn't feel like Wheatley put his stamp on it at all. It almost feels like a director for hire kind of thing. It has that kind of Netflix colorization to it. Doesn't really have his dark humor or anything. I mean, High Rise, I didn't love, but I certainly enjoyed it much more than that one.
Yeah, High Rise I thought was good, and I think hey, these guys got to eat, man. So maybe it was a scenario with Rebecca where they just hired him. All right,
Sure.
this is your lane, and you got to stay in it, and that's what we're looking for. Yeah, I could see
Yeah,
it.
one for them, one for yourself. And, now he's doing the Meg 2, which I would assume, hey, big studio payday. And, Ben Wheatley gets to play in $100 million sandbox, which, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, oh, totally.
And what do you think of Down Terrace,
Oh,
though, man? His debut
dude,
film, which
fucking Down Terrace ruled, dude. It was so good.
such a fucking great movie, and really shows like his voice that he'll have. It's a great start. Like you can see his voice, and then his themes and his humor come through right away. The style of filmmaking. I really like that one. I like these kind of low grade gangster movies that aren't like Goodfellas or Casino. These big epics. These are just these like shitbags who like don't leave their house, and it's
Yeah,
just kind of like low rent.
actually, some of the same characters, some of the same actors are in a lot of his films.
Yeah, I know that one actor. I think is in everything that he's done. Uh, he
Well,
played Jay's partner in Kill List.
yeah, Michael Smiley.
Yeah.
He was in Down Terrace. He played Pringle.
Yes, he did Pringle. Yeah, yeah, and he has a bigger part in Free Fire. Which have you seen that one yet?
No, but I believe that's on Showtime.
That's a good one, man.
Yeah.
That would make a good Ben Wheatley double feature with something like Sightseers, which is two of his funnier movies of dark subject matter, but told in a humorous sort of way.
Yeah, I have that added in Showtime, and most likely I'm going to watch it this evening. So yeah, that's going to be
Nice.
cool. Yeah.
That's going to be a fun evening for you, man.
Hell yeah.
I'm glad you checked those out.
Yeah, no, I'm all in, and yeah, I'm a late comer to Wheatley's canon, and I'm really enjoying his movies right now.
Me too, man. He's a director I look forward to whenever I see his name pop up anywhere. Let's see, he's gonna have my money, man. I'm definitely gonna watch it.
What
You
about
know,
you, man? You check anything out?
Well, yeah, I did. I watched Doctor Strange 2 or Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness because we have that Disney Plus app, but
Yeah.
I don't really watch anything on it. And I was, I've been sick and pretty much watch everything. And I was like, oh, Sam Raimi. I love Sam Raimi. I should probably watch this at some point. And I finally did. And I got to say, one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life.
Wow, I haven't seen it, so that's not very convincing for me to check it out.
Yeah, I really hated it. Marvel has this like kind of formula that they adhere to, but every once in a while you'll get like a real director-driven film from Marvel, like Shane Black doing Iron Man 3 or the Eternals or the later Thor films. Really, really kind of a showcase more for the director. And I thought with hiring Sam Raimi, you might get something more like that, but you get Raimi in director for hire mode. It doesn't, it has a few of Raimi's kind of visual flares to it, but other than that, I just found it to be this boring, headache-inducing eyesore, just an entire movie shot on a green screen, and it was very, very disappointing to say the least.
I'm sorry to hear that, man, because I love Sam Raimi, and Doctor Strange as a character has got so much potential, and they seem to be fucking ruining it.
Yeah, I didn't care for the first one. I mean, the only thing that brought me to this was Sam Raimi, and the claims that this was the first Marvel horror movie, and it wasn't. If that's their idea of a horror movie, then I don't think they've ever seen one before.
Yeah,
very, very, very unfortunate. And on the flip side of that, I started watching a show on FX on Hulu. That's been around. It was a limited series. It came out maybe a couple years ago. I've been meaning to get to it. It's called Devs. Did I mention this already to you?
No, but I I was aware of that too, and I haven't checked it out yet. So what's the story with Devs?
Well, that is a Alex Gardner show. He just directed Men, which you guys talked about on the podcast.
Right. And
The Great Ex Machina, one of the best films to come out in the last 10 years, last 20 years even. It's a masterpiece, I think. It's cool so far. I'm only on episode 2, but so far so good, man. I think if you're a fan of his directing, his writing, I think you're going to enjoy it. And much like everything else, it's best to go into it as cold as possible. I'm on episode 2, and I'm still really not 100% sure where it's going.
Okay.
And I think there's only 6 or 8 episodes, very limited. So, which I think is a good thing, because sometimes you can really ruin something good with season after season, and you kind of run out of ideas. And there's like 10 or 8 or 9 seasons of Dexter, and when you really probably only need like 3 or 4, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can attest to that too, man. Like, I still haven't really finished it, man. I started watching it like 3 years ago or whatever, and I watched a bunch of episodes, binged a couple of seasons, and then I kind of stalled out, and I don't know. I'm on the last few seasons.
Yeah, it's just sort of the same thing over and over again, and that's what worries me about Severance. So I saw an interview with one of the creators or writers of the show, and he's like, well, we've mapped out anywhere from 3 to 4 seasons or 6.
No. 6?
I'm like, man, yeah. I'm like, that first season was so perfect. I don't even know if you need to do more than 2,
That's what I was thinking. Maybe 2 to reveal and wrap everything up, and that's it,
Yeah, that's really all you need. I mean, it's a great premise. I thought season 1 was perfect. And, if it got canceled, ended right there, I kind of would be satisfied with leaving it on the cliffhanger it sort of ended on. And you come up with your own, ideas about what happened, what was happening.
Yeah, no, totally. It's, I mean, I want them to, go further with it, but yeah, I agree.
Right, of course. Other than that, I got to say, I don't talk about music a lot on this podcast, but one of my very favorite bands of all time released a new record, and it's fantastic. It's the new Afghan Wigs record.
Oh, shit. I didn't even know they had a new record out.
Yeah, they do. It's called How Do You Burn? I think that's what it's called. The title was come up by the late Mark Lanigan, who also makes an appearance on the record. It's good to hear his voice. A sad reminder that he's no longer with us. But, the Afghan Wigs broke up for a good, 14, 15, 16 years, something like that. And then did the reunion tour like so many bands do, and decided to sort of stay together. It's really just Greg Dooley and the Greg Dooley show at this point. Like, much like Queens of the Stone Age, is sort of a revolving cast of characters, and that's pretty much what the Wigs are now. But this record's really good, man. I mean, it took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting it to like it as much as I do.
I'm definitely going to check it out because I've been probably not as avid of a fan as you are, but I've always really liked Afghan Wigs.
Yeah, me too. I'm just a big Greg Dooley fan in general. I thought the Twilight Singers, the project he did after that, was great. His solo record that came out during the pandemic was great. You know, he's been at it a long time, and he's still got it. You know.
Yeah, totally, man.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing we did when we moved to LA after we unpacked was to go check out his bar back in 2003. He owns a bar called The Shortstop in LA, and I'm like, we're here, man. We got to go check out Greg Dooley's bar.
Did you see him? Was he there?
Yeah, he was bartending,
oh, wow.
And we were like, this is just bizarre. You know, I hadn't seen him live in a while. He put on some weight.
Well,
and
he's been known as a guy who struggled with his weight his whole life. So yeah.
Yeah, he carries it well though. It wasn't like, God, who's this disgusting piece of shit? But I didn't even recognize him at first. I mean, I guess you don't expect to see the guy from the Afghan Wigs behind the bar pouring beers and shit. You know, it was a trip, man. And, you know, he was every bit like he would be, like you would expect. Like the guy on the record, like he's that guy. You know what I mean? Like a John Belushi type of guy, you know, behind the bar, holding court, you know, kind of being a prick to people.
Yeah, his persona is really interesting, man. I mean, I got on board with them way back when they were on Sub Pop, you know, because I was
wow.
Yeah, I was into like all that stuff for a bit, you know, for a minute, like you know, Tad, and I was like a follower of that record label, and
sure,
you know, Afghan Wigs were one of those bands. They came out in the early '90s with Up In It, you know, and I thought pretty cool record. You know, and I've been following them more or less for the rest of their entire career, you know.
Kind of an outlier for Sub Pop at the time, too. I mean, they were a Cincinnati band. They didn't really sound like anything that was going on at the time.
No, not at all. It was like, you know, all those bands had that kind of, you know, heavy, like, you know, that kind of sludgy sound, you know. You could tell they were into, like, Sabbath and all that, and, you know, or Nirvana, you know. And
right.
And that kind of vibe, you know, Screaming Trees had a minute on Sub Pop too, and I think probably Screaming Trees were the only band that was maybe stylistically similar to the Afghan Wigs, somewhat, you know.
Somewhat, yeah, sure. And I don't think the Wigs really hit their stride until their major label record, Gentlemen.
Yeah, that's a great record.
Yeah, that trio of major label records, that Black Love in 1965, I would always think of the pinnacle of their career. Those just three records are incredible. And I gotta say, like, no record reminds me of moving to Boston more than Black Love by the Afghan Wigs.
Sure.
I listened to the shit out of that.
Dude, I have a plethora of fucking memories of all those early records, even back to the Sub Pop era, you know, that just, you know, like you listen to, put those records on and just like you go back in time and shit, you know.
Totally. His second record with his band, the Twilight Singers, Blackberry Bell, nothing reminds me of moving to LA more than that record.
Yeah.
So it seems like every major move in my life, Greg Dooley puts out a record. Now, as I moved to Texas, you know, he puts out an Afghan Wigs record. And I'm listening to the shit out of it, man. Great band. If you're a fan, you've been a little disillusioned with the last couple records, this is the one. Seems like a little bit of a return to form for them, a little bit more soul, you know, a little bit more of that going on. It's a great record. I highly recommend it.
Oh, I'm going to go check that out today then. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man, you should. Yeah. It's a grower for sure.
Right on.
I'll say that.
Yeah.
Other than that, yeah. I checked out the movie we are going to... I wanted to mention your podcast, your episode on Who Invited Them.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
You know, we've mentioned it, I think last week we were talking about it, and I was like, yeah, I wasn't so sold on the end. And hearing you guys talk about it, I was like, man, that ending went completely over my head. Like, it was right there, but I just didn't see it like the way you guys saw it.
Really? Interesting. I'm glad that you got something out of that.
Made me like the movie more. Like, I would bump it up from a 3 to a 4.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good one.
I dug that movie, man. I thought it was cool. Like I said, you know, just like basically 4 people in a room, like talking. You know, it's very much like almost like a play. And that's I've said it before. I've said it many times. I really like dialogue heavy films, and maybe that's because I love reading short stories so much. And it has that same feel to it. It's like dramatic, like feel.
Interestingly enough, the movie we're about to talk about, or we're going to talk about, in some ways similar, in some ways not. It's a huge $100 million movie, probably. Small cast, really kind of contained to one setting. I mean, there's obviously they go other places, but the majority of the story takes place in one little area. But this is a much grander, bigger production.
Definitely, man. And before we get going, I just want to acknowledge all of our podcasting family out there. Pretty much now, it's growing, as well as I hope all you guys check out all these other shows. And, starting off the week, we got Horror Wolf 666, which is another horror podcast that actually 100% focuses on interviews, which is not something that we do here at Necromaniacs. So there's, no conflict at all. And it's really cool. Tuesday is Into the Necrosphere, extreme music, black metal, all that sort of stuff. Check it out. It's the only music podcast I listen to. Wednesday is every week is Everything Went Black, which is my flagship podcast, which I started, way back in the 70s. I started this podcast, and I mean, it's pretty much a little bit of everything. You got music, you got filmmakers, you got authors, whatever. There's like recurring things on that happen with my buddy Ralph or Jay Bennett, the famous rock and roll scribe. Jay Bennett comes on every now and then.
One of the best.
Yeah.
Yep.
Friday, if you like comedy, it's an excellent way to end the week, the work week, with Break the Apocalypse. And then if you're into the occult or spirituality, we have Soul Knox, brought to you by my good friend Carl Hikara, and Iblis Manifestations, which is another podcast that I actually either I'm going to be on or have been on already, based on when you listen to this episode. So,
I thought maybe like you got so hammered you don't remember if you did it or not.
And that's definitely out there. And check, those are all great shows. They're all people that we're friends with, and we all support each other.
Or related to in some instances.
Related to.
You got related to. Doesn't Mike Scandato's brother do one of those podcasts you're talking about?
John Draper, who somehow doesn't have the same Scandato family name.
It's weird. I have an older brother. We have the same last name.
Really?
Yeah, weird, huh?
That's fucking far out, man. But yeah.
It is, dude. It is.
So that's it. When you're done with this, check those shows out. And that's pretty much all you need, man. Fuck listening to the news. Don't listen to Joe Rogan. Don't listen to anyone else except for these shows, and you've got the whole week locked down.
Yeah. What more do you need?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So this
no
week,
CNN, no books, none of that
don't
shit.
read. Don't read. Period.
It's all lies. It's all lies. We're kidding, people.
So for this week's episode, Jeff and I are going to be talking about the brand new film Nope, written and directed by Jordan Peele. It was released July 18th in LA this year, and then for the rest of the U.S. on July 22nd. So there was a LA only premiere of this film.
I did not know that.
Yeah. A little bit on the long side. It's 130 minutes. So, it's not a short watch.
It is definitely not a short watch.
Pretty good cast, man. We got the great Keith David. I'm going to put him as one of the stars too. I mean, he's not
okay. Interesting.
He's like, just out of respect, this guy is like an OG like horror icon, Keith David. And,
absolutely.
He plays Otis Hayward, Sr. We have Daniel Kaluuya as Otis, aka OJ, Otis Jr. Hayward.
Yes.
The great Keke Palmer as Emerald Hayward, known as M. Brandon Perea as Angel Torres. He's like a Geek Squad style technical support dude who shows up. Stephen Ewan, who you guys might know from Walking Dead, he shows up as Ricky, a former child actor. And last but not least, we have the great Michael Wincott, the best voice in all of filmmaking.
Such a great actor. So excited to see him in something again. It's been forever.
Yeah, totally. He looks awesome too, by the way.
He does. I'm not sure of his age, but he's been around a while.
He's timeless.
And man, you put him in something, it's automatically a better film. I mean, his little role in Dead Man makes the movie just that much better.
Yeah. I mean, also, he was in a lot of great films, like the Doors movie. That wasn't a great movie, but he was great in it. And one of my favorite movies, a sleeper, a movie that came out in the 90s called Strange Days with a young Ralph Fiennes. It's another film.
Yeah, from future Oscar winner Catherine Bigelow.
Yeah. That Strange Days is a really, really good movie, man. So if you guys want to see a movie about the year 2000 and like the insanity that's supposed to how it's the life is supposed to be in the year 2000, like definitely check it out. It's got Juliette Lewis in it. Michael Wincott is in it. A young Ralph Fiennes who kind of is dressed a little bit like David Yao from the Jesus Lizard in the movie.
Who pop up in this movie as well, oddly enough.
Yeah, and so anyway, Michael,
you also got the great Tom Sizemore too.
How could I forget Tom Sizemore?
Yeah, man.
So yeah, Wincott plays a character named Antlers Holst. It's a great name.
Yeah, it is a great name.
Yeah.
I was just racking my brain to think if there's any sort of significance to a name like that, but came up with nothing.
Nah, it's just, The funny thing about it like the last name Holst, like it implies that he might be European. And ironically, Michael Wincott is European. However, he plays an American in this movie with a European name.
Wait, is he English?
Yeah, he's British. Yeah.
I had no fucking idea. That just blew my mind.
Yeah, Wincott. Let me before I put my foot in my mouth, let me verify that. But I'm like 99.9% sure that Michael Wincott is British. Now watch.
Wow.
All right, so Wincott is Canadian.
Oh, okay.
He's from fucking Toronto, which is like actually that's like a very man, what a fucking fool I am. This guy's fucking Canadian.
Well, Toronto is the Europe of Canada.
Actually, Toronto feels more like a U.S. city than any other city. Like definitely, like Montreal feels very European, but Toronto, that's when things start feeling very, more like just North American, I guess.
Yeah, sure. And then you got fucking.
What an ass I just made out of myself. Okay,
we're leaving it in.
Yeah. Wincott's 64 years old, and he looks he looks great, man. He's got that chiseled face still. It's like a real youthful looking 64.
Good on Jordan Peele for casting him too, because he really hasn't done anything in a while. So he's a fan at least. And how do you start to talk about a movie like Nope? I guess we should start with the director himself. Sort of interesting figure in film. Very divisive, I would say. You got some people who really love this guy and other people who say the emperor has no clothes. And at 3 films, I think either or is a little bit of a stretch. I remember when Nope first came out in theaters, someone with a blue check mark declared him the master of horror, and no other horror director has made 3 good horror films in a row, which spawned many angry responses, one of which from Jordan Peele himself. He said, "Excuse me, John Carpenter," and good on him for that.
Yeah, Jordan Peele, I think is a cool guy. Like I like Jordan Peele. I liked his comedy work. Key and Peele.
Yeah, sure.
Now, the hyperbole of Hollywood types is sort of, in this case, kind of exploitative in a way, because Peele obviously is an African American filmmaker, and Hollywood with their extreme left point of view on everything is going to rally around an African American, the show not so much to support them in Peele and his endeavors, but to virtue signal how liberal they are. You know what I mean? And that I'm trying to word this in a way that doesn't paint me as like some right wing extremist. I really liked Get Out. I thought that was great. I totally enjoyed that movie.
Yeah, agreed.
I think that he needs to develop more, though. I don't like all of his films. Like, I'm not even going to say yet what I think of this movie. And the Twilight Zone thing he did, I think he was like the producer on that, was garbage in my opinion.
Yeah, it was really, really bad. To his defense in that, though, many have tried to reboot Twilight Zone, and it has never worked.
True. And then he also was involved in the production of the Candyman sequel, I guess, as we and
sequel / remake. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a remake. It
wasn't really a sequel either, though.
Yeah, but they acknowledged the beginning of what happened in Cabrini and Green.
That's true. I really hated that film.
That movie was terrible, heavy-handed, and just not scary at all. And the original I thought was great.
Yeah, well, I know Peele didn't direct that. I think he was more of a producer and maybe had a writing credit.
Yeah.
Definitely, I don't know how much of his writing made it into the final product. It doesn't really feel like it has his voice at all, but not good. Not good at all. Was very baffled by the response that it got from everyone saying it was. I saw that on a lot of top 10 of the year lists, and I guess it just didn't sit with me well. I thought it was a great looking movie, well directed at least, but just no, not good.
Yeah. I just, if the original one is such a classic in my opinion, you know what I mean? And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I was happy that someone was going to try to do something with that, but it just didn't really. It fell short with me.
It did. And to your point about the virtue signaling and the left, and what's kind of funny is people never seem to point out, at least to me anyway, about Get Out is the sort of well-off white liberals are the bad guys in that movie.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to remember the film. Yeah, like it's like the people that are the bad guys in that movie are like the ruling class, old money types. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you got like the dad who's like, I would have voted for Obama again, and then you got the daughter who's like, how dare the police pull over like my black boy? Like, these things you would hear people on Twitter say. It's like these are the bad guys of the movie, which I thought was an interesting twist on that. It's not like these country bumpkins or like Klan rally. We've seen that a million times. To make the less obvious choice, I thought was a good way to go. I wish Peele went further with the kind of dark themes in the movie. If you watch the Blu-ray, there's an alternative ending that I thought worked way better than the actual ending.
Yeah,
but
I didn't see the alternative ending, so I don't really know what it entails, really. But
I won't spoil it. But it's much darker and much more where I thought the film was going to go.
The interesting thing about that point you just brought up about the white liberals is that racism doesn't it extends into virtue signaling. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like there's the obvious like first tier racists that are out there like Ron DeSantis and people like that. You know what I mean? And And then there's like, the obvious heavy-handed broad strokes of that, you know what I mean? And then there's the more subtle racism that's displayed by, liberals, like who are exploiting people of color to bolster up their currency. You know what I mean?
Which is exactly what Get Out was about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought was great about that film, is that, it's that awareness of the subtlety I thought was really, really good and well displayed in that movie.
Absolutely. There's a little bit of that going on in this film, too, that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
I think, though, so quickly Jordan Peele became a name with expectations attached to it.
Yeah.
When Us came out, only his second movie, it already felt like someone's struggling with that. Like, okay, I have to have some sort of subtext to this film. And I think that was the undoing of Us. I thought Us was a great setup, great first 30, 40 minutes, and it completely falls apart for me after that. And I wasn't exactly sure what he was trying to say. I guess it was a movie about class in America, which, it's always interesting to hear someone who is a millionaire and lives in a mansion hear their ideas about class.
Who actually came from money, too, by the way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think Peele was like from like didn't struggle when he was younger with money at least.
Okay, you can't fault someone for that though.
No, I'm not faulting anybody for their economic standing at all. But I'm just saying, like,
right. But yeah, it felt like it needed to say something, and I'm not really sure what it was trying to say. And if it was about class, I mean. I'm not against any well-off filmmaker making a movie about that. You have the Parasite, which came out I think the same year or a year after, which is very much about class, and it is an excellent movie. And Us was just sort of a muddled mess for me. It didn't quite gel. Which brings us to Nope, which really is probably his most straightforward of the three movies.
Yeah, basically it is. I mean, it just in a nutshell, the movie is about two, siblings, brother and a sister, OJ and M, and they have a family business associated with horse wrangling, and then their interaction with Hollywood, which leads to some subplots here, and. At the heart of the movie, they're basically trying to find evidence of a UFO in the desert area where their ranch is located.
Right.
Yeah.
That's basically the movie.
Basically the whole movie, and now I don't know how much spoilery we want to get, but.
I would put a warning on it because there's some problems I have with this movie that are going to be tough to discuss without spoiling it. And ultimately, really though, there's not a lot to spoil. This is a 2-hour and 10-minute movie that really not much happens.
Yeah, it's actually broken up into 5 chapters. There's Ghost, Clover, Gordy, Lucky, and Jean Jacket. And,
yes,
I got to be honest, man. I caught myself dozing during some of this film, not literally, but I saw this at the movie theater, so it was dark, and it was like, kind of comfortable, and I was like, man, I could easily fall asleep right now and probably wake up and still not have nothing going on,
Right. Well, yeah, I know what you're saying, but for me, it was the opposite. I kept expecting Peele to rein it in and to sort of tie everything together. And that kind of kept me interested. And so when credits rolled, I was like, oh, I was like, at first, I didn't know what to think. I was like, man, like there's so much good in that movie. But at the same time, there's a lot of threads that just don't come together.
Well,
so I guess.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What I was going to say is I almost feel like this is a setup for like a universe to make more films in.
Oh, God, I hope not.
I hope not, too, because that's the only reason I can think that all these loose ends were still at the end of the film.
Well, it wasn't even like the loose ends. It was just sort of like scattershot. And, characters are usually Peele's strong suit. And in this movie, I felt like there barely were any characters. You had the lead, OJ, who might be the dullest lead in a movie I've seen in a long time. From a great actor. He's great. And he just doesn't have much to do. Doesn't really have much of an arc. You don't really understand any motivations why he's doing any of this. You know, he's obviously distraught. The movie begins. His father dies mysteriously. You know, gets hit with some random shrapnel from the sky, and he starts to think something's up. But other than that, he just sort of kind of mopes around the movie for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have all these other characters. I really feel like some of these characters could have all been folded into one or two. Because I think Jordan Peele keeps making the same point over and over again in this film, but with different actors, different characters. Because we all know that Jordan Peele likes to have subtext in his movies, and this one isn't political, per se, as much as his other two. But I really feel a strong theme about Hollywood itself. He's trying to make some sort of comment about filmmaking. Am I off there? What do you think?
No, I think if it's pretty, that's what everyone's been writing about is the subtext with Hollywood and you know, our addiction to spectacle and, you know, stuff like that. And, you know, I got to be honest, after having two films loaded with subtext, I really would I'd love to see him just make a movie that's just like, all right, this is going to be like a cool film that has like monsters in it or aliens, and we just explore that, you know, instead of like you were saying, hammering the same sort of commentary over and over again, you know?
Right. So you have everyone obsessed with spectacle. The movie starts on the set of a TV show. You just see a bloody monkey and blood all over the place, and it's a great setup. And I guess it has some sort of payoff later. There's this whole thing like of the don't look, you can't tame a predator, don't look a beast in the eye. That keeps coming back.
Well, I got a lot to say about that, but go ahead.
Oh, okay, please, by all means, I'd love to hear it.
Well, go ahead with what else. Please finish your point before I rip that.
Well, I'm saying that point is made with several characters. I think Steven Yeun's a great actor. What was the point of even having his character in this movie? I didn't like he's okay. Spoiler. I'm gonna say it right now. Count to 5. There's gonna be some spoilers. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Steven Yeun's character dies halfway through the movie. And you're like, what the hell was the point of all of that? All of those themes could have been done. You could have written that into OJ and made him a much more interesting character instead of this like mopey dude who's really got nothing to do.
Yeah, I think so. And there's the whole subplot with the you know, the chimp. You know, it's like I just that didn't really go anywhere for me. You know.
It didn't. I think it only existed to say you don't look it in the eye.
All right. Well, now that's a mistake because this is a mistake. Okay. This is one of these little details are the things that fucking enrage me sometimes. Okay.
Okay.
You know, like in Prey, like wolves don't hunt; they hunt in packs. They don't hunt like by themselves. Okay.
Sure.
That's like that bothered me so much about that movie. All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You have a primate. The eye contact thing has nothing to do with predator-prey relationship. It has to do with social dominance, like social status. So when a primate looks another primate in the eye, it's a challenge for social standing within the group. So they fight.
Sure.
And mostly they do not fight to the death. They just fight until one submits, and then the other one remains the dominant male or whatever in the the group. Okay. Predators, on the other hand, because primates are not strict predators, you know, they're omnivorous. You know, especially chimps. Chimps are like fucking humans. They eat all kinds of stuff. They eat everything, basically.
Right.
Predators.
Well, maybe predator was the wrong word.
No. But this is something that is relevant in the film because predator-prey relation, the eye contact thing, they actually recommend you to. I mean, I don't know who the fuck ever would test something like this, But if you look up in all these like survivalist manuals, and if you run into a predator out in the woods, you're supposed to look it in the eye and all this bullshit. And like,
Right.
so I mean, I'm not saying I would ever try to look a fucking lion in the eye, you know what I mean, and stare it down. But that is something that is recommended to do in a predator prey scenario, because the prey is usually fleeing from the predator. Right.
So you think this was a mistake to go this route?
I don't know. I don't know what the fuck this guy's thinking, man. I mean, that, because they do. Okay. Spoiler alert. It's not a spaceship. It's not an alien spaceship. It's actually a creature. Okay.
Yeah. I have that written down. I put a big "so what" underneath it. Like, is that really such a big reveal? Is that the big twist?
I think so, man. And it's so the whole thing is don't look it in the eye and you're safe, which is completely opposite to what actually happens with a predator. You know, it's like if you are running away from it, you're not looking it in the eye and you become its next meal, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I got you there.
Yeah. I couldn't work with that, you know, because I was just like, man, you're like this world-renowned filmmaker, writer, like that's like the linchpin of this whole thing. And you didn't really apply any real logic at that point. And that's what I have a problem with.
Okay. I get what you're saying. I can suspend disbelief a lot of times with a lot of these movies. What I didn't understand is why develop this character of Jupe at all when you could have just brought back characterization and made it like OJ's. Like Jupe is kind of interesting. He's a child star. He's kind of like this, like, I don't know, aloof sort of guy, and he's an interesting character. And then he's just sort of gone.
Yeah.
He's figured out a way, like he thinks to tame this beast or whatever. So, and which ultimately, in one of the best scenes in the movie, it shows that he very much can't. But ultimately, yeah, like it really didn't have a lot of payoff and didn't really go anywhere. And you make that point with other characters, like OJ is a horse trainer, and he mentions very early in the film, hey, don't look this thing in the eye. Don't look this horse in the eye. And the horse freaks out. And, they have to replace the horse with a CGI horse, which I thought was very funny. You've seen them loading in a CGI horse in the background. So he kind of keeps making the same point over and over again. You have all these people obsessed with capturing spectacle. But to what, like Michael Wincott, okay, he's great. I really think his character is severely underwritten.
Yes.
And his motivations very questionable in this movie.
I agree with that. And like that, and he was underutilized too, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And just even the connection of getting him to that, you see him at the beginning of the movie, he's directing a commercial or something. I didn't quite sure. I wasn't sure what
I think it was a commercial. Yeah.
Yeah. And, he establishes OJ again being kind of mopey. They bring up that his name is OJ, the white lady.
Yeah, like, the whites.
It's OJ? Yeah. So calling him OJ was no accident, obviously. He's not very good at talking, so the sister M comes in, does this big spiel. Seems to kind of annoy the director. So them having this sort of connection at the end, like her calling him, seemed very out of nowhere.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought a better version of this character would be like a Captain Ahab. Like, no one really seems to have any like real connection to want to hunt this thing down. You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna bring Michael Wincott's character in, and make it like, he's obsessed with getting the perfect shot. Like, you already sort of have that going on in so many different characters in the movie. Like, make him the Ahab, the guy who like has some sort of personal vendetta against this thing. Someone who's obsessed with UFOs. But he's just basically another guy who gets this phone call out of nowhere. And it's like, yeah, sure, I got nothing else going on. I'll come down there. Yeah, it just seemed like a waste of, like, you could have done something so much more there.
Yeah, in general, I thought
way
it
more
was,
interesting.
in general, it was just kind of lazy writing, I thought. You know?
Yeah, which is not. I mean, it's not something you expect from Jordan Peele. I mean, even though Us didn't work for me, it's a very ambitious movie. And this, yeah, I would agree with you. Felt a little lazy, and that comes through in like the plotting, the pace. For such a big blockbuster, this is one of the slowest movies I've seen in quite a while.
Yeah, totally. And now I
Um,
want to talk about the actual alien itself too.
okay, yeah, all
Yeah.
right.
All right. So this is obviously some kind of Lovecraftian creature from the center of the universe that somehow has come to roost here in on the planet Earth and is largely obscured by an unmoving cloud. Okay.
Hmm.
Now this thing is fucking gigantic,
Yeah.
and how does it not completely consume all of the humans and animals on the planet Earth because of how fucking gigantic this thing is? Like, how does it only sustain on the occasional person here and there or group of people, you know?
Yeah, I had that written down, similar, like something similar as well. Like, and then they like the thing wants to stay hidden, but why? That's one thing about
Yeah.
UFOs and aliens in general that I don't get. In real life, if they've been here, why do they want to stay hidden? What do they have to be afraid of? They're obviously superior to us. That's like if you were trying to like hide, your existence from a fucking possum or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I've often that's like always been my biggest thing about UFO conspiracy types. You know, it's like why would they're so powerful and they have intergalactic travel capabilities. You know, and obviously this thing being a some sort of intergalactic traveling being and that can obviously consume so many things and is nothing to really fear. You know, why the
Right,
hell would this thing care if people see it or not?
right, exactly. It was, I wondered that many times throughout the film myself. Did you like the actual design of it?
Not particularly.
Really?
I mean, it was all right. You know, it's like there are things about it that were cool, but like I don't know. I just I don't know.
I thought when it took the shape of a ship, which you see it in for most of the film, was like a nice nod to the stuff Peele obviously loves, like the 50s Twilight Zone sort of standard idea of what a UFO would look like. But then when you realize it's not a UFO, it's just an actual being, a creature, it takes on this angelic sort of look, which is not common in when you see an alien in a horror film. It's usually something more just slimy or rigid or like terrifying. And this thing is very angelic, almost pretty, almost like a screensaver or something, or
Yeah.
like something painting someone would hang on their wall in their office. I thought it was an interesting choice considering how brutally this thing dispatches people.
Yeah, no, definitely, and yeah, I just didn't like it. It looked like a kite to me, actually. You know,
Yeah, I mean, I appreciated the instinct to go in a different direction with it, but I thought something more menacing was needed. I don't know. Yeah, it was just because you have one of the best scenes in the movie is showing like how these people, how it gets people, and it's really disturbing.
yeah,
I mean, you have people howling and crying, screaming, and begging for their lives being like digested by this thing. It's very unsettling, and it could turn out to be this sort of angelic looking creature was yeah, he's not what I expected. I'll say that.
I think at that point of the movie, I was thinking more about going to the diner after the theater, or after the film.
This
was
happens
over.
to you a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
but I hung in there. Yeah, it's
well,
the other thing too is it instead of all right, there's this big thing about looking in the eye. You have to look away, which is ridiculous in my opinion. you know. But somehow this inflatable cowboy fools it into thinking that it's an actual living creature that it has to consume. Like,
Right.
what the fuck
Yeah.
is that all about?
Yeah. This thing was smart when it needed to be smart and very dumb when it needed to be very dumb. Like the whole idea, like I would like to know how Stephen Young's character even thought he could control this thing, you know, and like just like, oh, bring in a horse and you know, and how did he not think everyone there was going to get destroyed?
Yeah.
Weird choices there. The choice I did like, a big nod to Jaws in this movie with the creature. Not so much in the look, but you kind of get a glimpse here,
Yeah.
a glimpse there, and they use other things to represent that the creature is there. You know, famously in Jaws, the shark never worked, so they came up with the yellow barrels. Like, there's the shark. Here, you have sort of a similar thing, much more intentional, with those tube men that you see in front of used car lots.
Yes.
Because everywhere this thing goes, it knocks out the electronics. So they'd have these tube men all over the place, and when they stopped working, you knew the alien was nearby. Which, you know, and then you see it here and there zipping through a cloud, and it was exciting. Like, I couldn't wait to get like a good look at it. And then when I did, I was like, it looks cool, but it's not menacing at all. And I mean, obviously that's a choice and something Peele wanted, but you know, I kind of wanted a little something, I don't know, scarier, like the shark in Jaws. That thing is menacing and terrifying.
Yeah, no, totally, man. You know,
Yeah.
and I did like the idea that it took out electronics, because you got to imagine this thing somehow, you know, far-flung technology is involved. Like, maybe this thing is like a hybrid of like android technology and biological material, and it operates on electromagnetics or something, you know, some really cool science fiction-esque thing going on, and that's why it drains all the electricity, you know what I mean? That I thought was a
totally
cool touch. You know, something that's been in, you know, that's not an original idea. That's been in a lot of sci-fi films, you know.
Right, sure. And I think it's cool to do something on a big scale, like a big alien invasion, but seen from a small perspective. I like stuff like that. Like, it kind of it really reminded me of, you know, early Spielberg, obviously with the Jaws reference, a little bit of Signs by M. Night Shyamalan, whose Jordan Peele's career may go the same way. It's hard to tell at this point. I hope not. But it did have a lot of that, like, you know, big story, but told on a, you know, very quaint sort of way. And I thought that was a good choice, but also kind of bumped up against reality when like 50 people go out to the desert to witness something and they all die. That place would be swarmed immediately.
Oh yeah, big time. Absolutely.
And
it'd be a crime scene. You know, it'd be like the yellow tape everywhere, you know.
right, exactly. And I think there is some yellow tape.
Yeah,
like,
but it would be,
I mean,
like an FBI investigated site where there'd be people there all the time if something like that happened, you know.
Oh, totally. And then I guess, you know, in the very end, like, you see some people coming towards it, but then like I mean, this movie kind of peters out at the end. At the big thing is she wants to take a picture of it to prove that it existed,
Which doesn't prove anything, because how many pictures of UFOs are there out there in the world? You know?
Exactly.
It's like
Exactly.
just another fucking fake ass photo of something that doesn't exist, you know?
Yeah, and then they sort of defeat the creature, spoilers, with the cowboy thing you mentioned. Like, what?
Ludicrous. Completely
Yeah,
ridiculous.
exactly. How did she even know? I think she was trying to use it as a distraction, but it ended up defeating it. Which, I mean, that's what I meant. Like, this movie is long and slow and drawn out, and then it just goes sort of zoop, it's over.
Yeah.
And in the end, it just, I don't feel like, for a movie about spectacle and Hollywood, and, you know, it didn't really have a whole lot of, like, spectacle. I mean, there's some, I don't want to completely shit on this movie, because there is a lot to admire. It's a great looking movie. You have like a simple dialogue scene where OJ and his sister are walking, having a conversation, and it looks beautiful. You have the shot of the house when it's just raining blood. Great image. Jordan Peele is so capable of making a great movie. I just feel like he gets too wrapped up in his own ideas. He doesn't really know how to completely connect the dots.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, this really fell short with me, and I wanted to like it. I thought, like, I remember seeing trailers, and I was like, man, this looks really cool, you know, and I got excited for it, and you know, went to go see the film, and didn't live up.
Yeah, if you were going to give this a grade, where are you?
Okay, I have 3.5, 3.5 stars written down out of 5, and that's, I feel like I'm being a little bit generous, because it did look good. You know, there was like, you know, there were moments in the film I thought were entertaining. You know, I was entertained for the most part. It was definitely too long. But why I don't give it anything better is because, like, I'm not going to watch this again for sure. You know what I mean?
Okay,
And,
right.
I'm not going to buy it on Blu-ray or whatever, or even watch it again when it's on streaming somewhere, because it just isn't that good. I just didn't enjoy it like that. So that's why it's not, you know, for all the reasons I talked about earlier, you know.
See, I thought your grade was going to be much lower. I originally was thinking 2.5, but I'm going to go ahead and say 3.
Okay. All right.
Because I think it's worth seeing. I think it is a well-crafted movie with great ideas that don't necessarily come together in a satisfying way. But like I said, it's very cinematic. I wish I did see it on the big screen. I believe this was filmed in IMAX. It must have looked amazing.
Maybe if I'd watched it at home, I would have given it a 3. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Well, maybe the spectacle of it, you know, you gave it a slightly higher grade. But this is, to say this is not a movie worth your time, I would say would be untrue. I think this is worth seeing and has some interesting ideas. And Peele obviously loves the cinema of the 70s and early 80s, which just kind of reminded me of. It had a very Spielbergian thing going on.
Yeah, totally.
And maybe it'll just be some, you know, I will see this again. You know, when Jordan Peele's got 5 or 6 films under his belt and you want to go and rewatch everything as a whole and see how everything fits together, this might be, you know, maybe see it in a different sort of context when he's got more out. I don't know, but I'll probably end up watching it again at some point. But it's frustrating because, yeah, like you said, I was excited for this one, and it just didn't really live up to the hype. And I feel like Jordan Peele has yet to live up to his own hype at this point. With 3 under his belt and people calling him the new master of horror, I'm just not there.
Yeah, I don't want to, like, you know, penalize him for the hyperbole of everyone like giving him props.
Of course.
You know what I mean? But
Right.
yeah, that he's clearly not the next big thing in horror, in my opinion. You know.
Also, since music is such a big part of our lives, I gotta point out there's a Jesus Lizard T-shirt in this movie and Earth.
Yeah. Very cool.
Which, yeah, that's a choice. I mean, it's someone working on that film in the wardrobe department likes really good music.
I think it's kind of cool that that M, she was wearing the Jesus Lizard T-shirt, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that
and
was
Alex,
cool.
the tech guy, wearing the Earth shirt.
Yeah, that was cool. I like Keke Palmer. I think she's cool, and I thought I like seeing her in movies. You know what I mean? She makes me laugh and she's entertaining, I think.
Yeah, she is, and she has the most character in this film. You know, like she has more than, you know, one note of just, you know, grumpy or, you know, grizzled, or, you know, she's a lot more animated than the rest of the cast. I also got to point out that the TMZ guy, which I guess he is, the guy on the motorcycle, the scene was very funny, but didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. he again kind of making the same point. TMZ, obsessed with capturing the image, obsessed with capturing the spectacle.
Yeah, that was actually one of the high points of the movie, definitely.
I definitely laughed the hardest at that point. Where like, yeah, you know, oh, that guy's dead, and then you were screaming in the distance. It was good. It was good. This is worth your time, but I'm not gonna. This is not a big recommendation for me. It's worth seeing if you're a fan of cinema, you're a fan of the genre. For the casual viewer, I think they'd be bored out of their mind now.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. This movie fell short for me, man. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. But it did well. And Jordan Peele is one of the very few directors whose name is how you sell the film. There's not a lot of guys like that anymore. You got him, you got Christopher Nolan, and I'm sure there's someone I'm missing, but like those names themselves will sell a movie. Just that director's name.
I just want him to spend more time writing. You know what I mean?
Or maybe see him with someone else's script. I've always kind of wondered that when the director kind of does like one thing and one thing only. You know, see what they do with someone else's script. You know, like Spike Lee kind of did his thing like on his for a while, wrote, produced, directed, and then he did some director for hire jobs, and they were some of his best work. Sometimes that just happens. You got like the 25th Hour or Inside Man. I'd be curious to see a director like Jordan Peele or Wes Anderson sort of do someone else's script, do something out of the genre that they always do. Like maybe Jordan Peele does a drama, or you already know he can do comedy really well, but just something different.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of just like structural things that just fell to the wayside, and the premise was cool. I mean, I guess that's why I'm saying that I'm hammering him on the writing, because like the premise is good.
Right.
The idea behind this film is interesting to me. It's some desert, UFOs. Like there's such like a rich, tapestry of mythologies and things that he can tie into, especially being in the desert. That would make this thing really cool. And and also some of the ideas. If it's a sci-fi like horror film, and they don't really. Part of the gig is to give some kind of like explanation for some of the arcane things that are going on in the movie, and he failed.
Right.
He failed at that.
Yeah, and like I said, the characterization, like Jordan Peele's usually very good at that kind of thing, writing like great characters, and I really think a lot of these characters are very kind of just blah. Like we didn't even really talk about Alex, the tech guy, because I mean. Again, like, did his character really need to be there?
Yeah. He was necessary because he was the guy who set up all the cameras. You know what I mean? That was kind of like,
right.
That I can see why they had him in the film, and then he added some sort of like color. Like there's another character to bounce things off of and to use for exposition and things like that. But. Yeah, I mean, they could have rolled him into one of the other characters, I guess, too.
Yeah, that's what I feel. Just like you could have combined some of these characters, or just like really kind of beefed up like the characters that were there. It's been a while since I've seen a movie with such an uninteresting lead, especially from such a great actor. Like, some just baffling choices. But again, I stand by my 3. It's low recommendation. It's worth seeing. Maybe once, maybe twice.
Yeah, I think I might watch it again someday, but I'm not. It's not one of these things where I'm like, like Barbarian. I'm going to pay again to see it in the movie theater this weekend.
There you go. Yeah.
So yeah. Well, thanks everyone.
There you have it.
Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.
Take care, everybody.